Hey, what's up? Jeff PELIZZARO here. And do you struggle with getting in the right position in your backswing, specifically with your hips moving too much or not feeling like you're really loading up and getting that power into your trail leg? I'm going to guess that there's probably one little tip that I can give you that's really going to change the way that you rotate into your backswing. It's going to create a lot more power coming from the ground, and it's going to allow you to generate a lot more force as you end up coming through into impact. What I find is that you generally aren't going to create a lot of power in that back leg or be able to transfer a lot of power in that back leg if you're not properly rotating. And so if you find yourself tending to shift off of the ball into your backswing as you go back, or you feel yourself really kind of standing up into your backswing, that tells me that something's not working properly at the lower body. And so generally what we're going to end up looking at a lot is the hip. Could be rotation at the spine that's causing it, but for this video we're going to talk about specifically what's going on at that trail hip, and one little tip that you can use, not a gimmick, not a trick, but a way that you can kind of be aware of what your body's doing in the backswing without creating all these crazy thoughts and positions. So the trick here is, or the tip is, that you have to be able to load properly into this leg without feeling that big shift or sway into the back leg. We need to be able to keep this position on that right side. If you look at guys like Dustin Johnson, Cameron Champ, some of these guys that are hitting the ball as far as possible, they create a lot of torque here, not by holding their hips still and creating what we would call that big X factor. They are creating that X factor, but it's not because they're minimizing what's going on here. For several years, the instruction was keep this as still as possible, just learn to rotate from the upper body. And while that was in theory kind of the idea of creating that X factor, that's not really the most effective way to do it. What we want to do, and when you see the guys on TV on Sunday, what they're doing, you'll see them as they rotate, their hips actually turn as well. So they're not just keeping their hips still and rotating their shoulders. Otherwise, this would be as far back as you would see Dustin Johnson go. What they're doing and what they're really good at is getting this hip to rotate, sink into that hip socket, create some torque here while there's also torque coming into the upper body. And that's why a guy like Dustin Johnson can get his hands way up high, because he's able to rotate here as well as at the trunk. Now, why don't you or the average Joe do that properly? It's because you haven't gotten the right feel and haven't utilized the muscles in your legs and in your trunk and in your body the way that you need to. So here's what I want you to think of. As you get into position, we're just going to work on a little rotational move. And this is a drill that you can do on your own at home. And I'm going to give you a way to kind of measure yourself and make sure you're doing it right. But when you go into your backswing, you don't want to see this leg shift over to the side. Yes, we're going to feel some pressure on that back leg as you go into your backswing, but you don't see Rory McIlroy shifting over here. You see him rotating in that same position. So if I had like a hula hoop around me, I'm going to stay in that same position, and I'm sinking back into that hip. Now, it sounds easy in theory, but when you get out on the course, it's a little bit harder. So here's what I want you to do. Just a little drill that I want you to practice. You could even stand up and do this right now. If you have a club, put the club right next to your foot. Make it straight up and down, and look at how much space you have here. A couple inches there, maybe 3 inches or so. I want you to bend over into a little bit of your golf posture, and all you're going to do is rotate your trunk, let your hips go back a little bit, but stay centered over the ball there. And I want you to feel your foot digging into the ground. You should almost feel it like almost like it's trying to corkscrew out this way. As I rotate, I'm feeling a lot of tension building in my hip. I'm keeping that same space there, and I'm keeping my eyes kind of down where a ball would be. I could even change hands, grab the club here and rotate this way. So now I've got a lot of tension built up in that hip. And then you can just hang there for a little stretch. So if you look at it from the side, I've got my club. I'm going to hinge into, what would be my normal golf posture. And then I'm just going to rotate my upper trunk, making sure I keep that space there. And I'm feeling the weight into my right foot, really on the inside of my foot, the inside of my heel almost is where I like to feel that. I feel a lot of tension and stretch in my hips. And now I know that I'm loaded up here. Now if I were to go from this position into my backswing, I'm even going to pull further with my shoulders, but I've got a lot of tension built up in this leg. And then from there is when I can start my downswing instead of swinging from over the top. So again, just to recap, you want to make sure that you're staying kind of in this little circle. So as I rotate, I'm not shifting out into that club. I'm rotating this way. Feel that hip kind of driving back, keeping my good posture here. And even if I did it with my club on my shoulders, now it's going to look a little something like that, where I'm not shifting, I'm just rotating. I'm feeling some tension, pressure in the inside of my foot there, feeling my glutes, feeling my leg, and then I'm feeling myself all torqued up and ready to go. So if you're having trouble getting into the right position in your backswing or feeling that rotation, or you feel like you just have limited motion in your hip, this is a great little stretch that you could do. You could even kind of warm up before a round of golf like this, or even do this as a long stretch after a workout, towards the end of a workout. Hold that for 30 seconds up to 2 minutes, which is kind of the ideal time to really make some changes. But feel that thing stretching, feel yourself building some tension. And once you do that, you're going to get more comfortable getting into that position when you're doing it on the golf course. All right, if you like these videos, if these are helpful, subscribe to the 18 Strong YouTube channel and go check us out on iTunes for the podcast. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.